Discrimination to me is usually an unjust treatment or prejudice against a group of people or a certain individual, usually based on like sex or religion or gender, or just honestly just putting someone down. Either you don't like them because there's a certain quality about them or something like that.
Discrimination to me is when people don't include or don't treat other people equally just because of how they look or what gender they are or what they believe in.
So to me, discrimination is any unfair treatment of someone because of a physical characteristic or even a mental characteristic that they have. Basically anything that's deemed unnormal by the rest of society or different than whoever is discriminating against them.
So I see discrimination as basically treating someone differently or less than you would normally treat people, just because they're different from you. And it could be a difference in any form, difference in maybe how you look, how you dress, difference in your economic status. Maybe it's difference in your belief system.
Discrimination is singling somebody out because you have more social and political control from them.
Discrimination to me is when people put other people behind themselves because of who or what group they are part of. So like when somebody is going to put somebody down or just not associate themselves with that group just because of who they are.
I think discrimination exists because it's kind of our human nature to judge and classify people so we can extinguish ourselves. And so when we classify people into certain groups, we usually have self-bias against ourselves, so we think that we're usually better, so that leads to discrimination against other people.
People don't like things that are different. They don't like change. They just want everything's the same. Like I have 50 of something, you have 50 of something. If I had 50 of something and you had like 49 of something, like I have more than you, so I can discriminate.
I think discrimination exists because of ignorance. I think that people are just not willing to put themselves behind other people, and they're not willing to show other people that they're worthwhile. And they're also just, people can be very closed-minded, which results in a lot of discrimination because when somebody's closed-minded, they're not willing to associate themselves with that kind of person, or like open up their mind to the fact that they're still human and that they're still like a person and they have feelings and stuff.
Honestly, discrimination exists because people are scared about people being different.
Why does it still exist? Because people don't want to deal with it. They just want to sweep it under the rug. And so until you like look at the problem and face it and call it the problem that it is, with the extent that it is, and realize that it's institutional, it's completely ingrained in this country, and it's not going away anytime soon. That until you look at the problem in the face and deal with it, it's not going to go anywhere.
Many ways. First of all, being a woman, it's just like everyday life. Like in my daily life, there's just so many ways. Like first of all, there's gym class, which is a huge struggle in middle school because the gym coaches are super sexist, but it's fine. And I don't know, like you just see it in your everyday life, and then being part of the LGBTQ community. Like I'm Catholic, so growing up in that society, and like being told certain things about how I should be, how I shouldn't be, it just reflects into my life and like the groups that I'm in, just because we, like as Catholics, we don't believe in that kind of thing, and me being part of that group, I face a lot of discrimination.
In my life, I've been discriminated against for a lot of different reasons, because I'm a female, because I'm not 100% white, I have a different culture, because I have a lower economic status. So that's looked a lot of different ways. But really, the kind of overarching thing is that I haven't been given as many opportunities as like my peers that don't have those characteristics. So like where I wouldn't get leadership opportunities, or like I wouldn't get, like my voice wouldn't be accepted as like legitimate. Like if, like say maybe I wouldn't even be invited to the table, or if I was at the table I wouldn't have a voice to like make decisions or to give input to things, because I'm a woman, or I'm a minority, or I'm young, or I'm poor, so I don't have advice. So yeah, I haven't been, like discrimination it comes in a lot of different forms, where it can just be as simple as you not getting an opportunity to do something that you know that you're qualified for, or it could be physical violence or anything like that. But I personally have not experienced that. It's been more the lack of opportunity for me. The way discrimination affects my life currently is, in the last couple years, is that so I'm married to an immigrant, and he's also Black, and it seems like that's the worst things you can be in America, right? So I, as a wife, am always thinking of like, what if he gets pulled over, what could happen? Because as a Black man in America, like they don't know that he's not from the United States. They don't know that he's not African American. So like he's not like used to these things, and it really doesn't matter. Like when you come in contact with police, you just never know what's gonna happen. And so with him being a Black male in the United States, that's a worry that I have as a wife. My kids, I'm gonna have to train them what to say when they come across a police officer, and how to act, and how to deal with bullying in school. With kids are probably gonna call them the N-word, and how am I as a mother gonna have to react to that? And I gotta prepare my kids, my son, for that. And so it's just a lot of different things that you have to think about as a wife and mother. Even if it's not facing me directly, it is. Because discrimination is just so prevalent in this society.
I personally experienced the discrimination when I was invited to the table at organizations, but it felt more like I was there for the picture. I was there to make up numbers so that they could say they had a young Black male on their panel or on their board or whatever. But at the same time, even though I was there, I felt like my voice wasn't being heard. I wasn't given the opportunity to speak into my community, because you can't possibly know what you're talking about because you're so young, or you can't possibly know what you're talking about because you're a minority. And so it's a terrible feeling to be in a space where you have ideas, you have dreams, you have hurts that you want to express, but you're not given the space to do that. And maybe even when you're sharing, you're cut off, or told that your opinion doesn't matter. And they may not say it in as many words, but the way that they carry themselves, the expressions that you get from the room, you sort of feel like, okay, your voice is not important in this picture. How can we as a society change racism or combat racism, I think a huge part of that is at its core valuing people. At the end of the day, there's a lot that we have in common. We all want to live a successful life. We all want health, wealth, prosperity. So recognizing that there is a lot that does unite us. There is a lot that we do have in common. But even in addressing that, or maybe if you were like righting those wrongs that historically as a country we have systematically discriminated against certain people groups. But I think a huge part of that is allowing people to share their story. What happens when you're in a relationship and one party has routinely broken down your trust in them? That doesn't just change overnight. It does take some time to, one, for forgiveness to happen. It takes some time for the person who has always been wronged to even trust that the party who wronged them would change. And I think a big part of that is the giving people, whether it's a minority group or somebody who's just different from you, giving them the opportunity to share their story and to lament, this is how society, this is how others have treated me, so that they can find some closure. You can never heal until you find closure. I think far too often, as people share their stories, the stories are minimalized, they're cut off, and what you communicate when you do that is that your story isn't important. What you feel or have felt isn't important. But I think a big part of taking steps to resolve discrimination is allowing people to share their stories and really listening to understand what it is like in their shoes.